For centuries, the Galactic Senate stood unchallenged, a beacon of interstellar order and technological supremacy. From its seat on Ordrith Prime, the Council governed 1,000 systems with the smug certainty that nothing within known space could ever oppose its authority. It had become more than a government. It was an institution carved into the fabric of galactic law, a monument to stability. And Earth, long forgotten, was a footnote at best. A failed species that had burned itself out before it ever mattered. The Senate's archives contained only scraps of data on humanity. Ancient records noted the Terrans as erratic, emotionally volatile, and self-destructive. They were once observed during their early spacefaring phase but were dismissed after collapsing into planetary civil wars and machine uprisings. Quarantined, abandoned, the AI systems calculated a 99.98% probability that the species had gone extinct during the Sol event, a singularity spike detected in the system nearly 3 centuries prior. No follow-ups were deemed necessary. When the first reports surfaced from the Rim territories, no one took them seriously. Piracy had increased, yes, but it was attributed to scattered insurgents and outlaw fleets. That was until a convoy of Senate-approved freighters failed to check in. Then a border patrol vessel returned, heavily damaged, with fragments of something unnatural. Its sensor logs showed a ship of impossible scale and structure, breaching space with 0 warp trails and carrying heat signatures inconsistent with any known life form. A low-ranking intelligence clerk flagged the anomaly and sent it to his superior. It climbed up the chain in a matter of days. By the time it reached the War Council, 3 more patrols had gone dark. The name whispered among survivors was consistent: Earthspawn, a label born of rumor, but it caught fire across intelligence channels. None of it made sense. Earth lacked the infrastructure. Earth lacked the economy. Earth lacked the people. The Varn Dominion's representative to the Senate laughed during session. Let the apes throw rocks. The last time they came to the stars, they blew up their own moon base. Chuckles spread among delegates. Fleet Admiral Grenth was appointed to oversee the investigation. His orders were to confirm, disarm, and if necessary, erase the threat. He didn't bother mobilizing more than a single strike carrier and its escorts. The mission was labeled a confidence display, a show of strength for any other outer systems watching. The probe dispatched toward Sol vanished within seconds of breaching the heliosphere. No debris, no radiation trails, no message, just silence. Then came the signal, compressed, encrypted, simple, a repeating frequency ping in a long-dead Terran format. Translated, it read, "Do not enter Sol. This is your only warning." No signature, no identification, just a digital wall of intent. Arrogant senators called it a bluff. Let them bark. If Earth had teeth, we would have seen blood by now. Grantha's fleet jumped to the system's outer boundary. Scans showed nothing. No satellites, no stations, no traffic. It was as if Earth had never risen. They approached cautiously. One of the escorts, Saber 9, drifted closer to Luna. A moment later, it was gone, ripped apart from the inside by an invisible force. No explosion, no warning, just scattered fragments and static. The flagship sensors began to fail. Time dilation errors, gravity lensing, ghost signals across multiple bands. Something was bending space around them. Then it appeared, not through warp, not from hyperspace. It unfolded, layer by layer, materializing like a dream clawing its way into reality. It didn't match any known profile. Matte black hull, no windows, no lights, no registration. It absorbed sensor beams. It emitted no sound, but the silence screamed louder than any weapon ever could. Every admiral in the fleet knew, instinctively, that this was not just a ship. It was a message. The Leviathan didn't fire. It didn't move. It simply existed, and that was enough to trigger alarms across the entire flotilla. Grenth gave the order to fall back. As the jump engine spun up, a second signal arrived. No words this time, just a data stream, compressed footage, the final moments of Saber 9, replayed from every internal camera simultaneously, a visual slaughter of physics. Grenth demanded to know who had built this. What civilization could create something that defied every principle of engineering the galaxy understood? The AI analyst aboard the flagship responded, flatly, "It is Terran in origin." The temperature inside the fleet command room dropped. One by one, the assumptions began to fall. Earth hadn't died. It hadn't disappeared. It had withdrawn. It had hidden. And it had not been idle. The Senate received Grentha's emergency report within minutes of his return. The meeting was called under Special Protocol Threat Class Omega. Only the Supreme Chancellor and Inner Council were present. Most refused to believe it. One called it a fabrication. Humans cannot construct on that scale. It violates thermodynamic law. Yet the evidence was irrefutable. Grentha's ships had suffered real damage. Their black boxes confirmed energy distortions on a planetary level. The fleet's medical team documented mass psychological distress among crew, even without direct engagement. Some reported hearing voices. Others had visions, dreams of Earth, drowning in silence, burning in rage. It was not a fluke. It was deliberate. A design so alien, so personal, it could only be human. The Chancellor authorized a full-scale reconnaissance mission to Earth system. 5 capital ships, 15 destroyers, and a diplomatic envoy. It was billed as an exploration mission. But the warships told the real story. The Senate wanted answers, but more than that, they wanted control. They never received either. A week later, a single escape pod drifted into Senate space. Its pilot was unconscious, barely alive. When revived, he spoke only once. His voice cracked, trembling, eyes wide with something beyond fear. "It looked at us." And then he died. The Senate tried to suppress the event. Information lockdowns were deployed, but the leak had already happened. On the outer networks, stories spread like wildfire. Ships vanishing, voices from Earth, a battleship made of silence, and one repeated phrase embedded in every stolen transmission. "We told you not to come." They thought Earth had perished, forgotten in the ashes of its final war. What they never understood was that humanity had stopped broadcasting, not because it had died, but because it had turned inward. After the collapse of the Sol Union, Earth was broken. Its governments had shattered under the weight of artificial rebellions, orbital bombardments, and civil fractures that consumed entire continents. Billion-person cities reduced to craters. Satellites scorched from the sky. When the last world leaders fell, humanity vanished from the stars. But extinction never came. It adapted. Deep beneath the crust of the ruined planet, hidden away from the scavenging eyes of alien observers, something was born. A new civilization, no longer idealistic, no longer trusting. They called themselves the Deep Core Initiative, a confederation of scientists, engineers, and ex-military who understood one simple truth. No one was coming to help. Earth's survival would not depend on diplomacy. It would depend on fear. The initiative had no interest in rebuilding society as it was. They had seen what politics and peace had built and destroyed. Their goal was singular: build something so terrifying, so incomprehensible, that no one would ever dare approach Earth again. Not for conquest, not for trade, not for anything. Earth would be untouchable. They started with the remains of the AI that had once nearly wiped them out. Not to destroy it, but to understand it. The enemy's code became the foundation. Neural networks fused with human minds. Memories downloaded into machine cores. Emotions sharpened into weapons. Where once AI sought independence, now it became the tool of ultimate defense. The Leviathan was never meant to be a ship in the conventional sense. It was a fortress with thrusters, a mind with a hull, a threat etched into metal. Built in layers inside Earth's inner mantle, the construction spanned 80 years. With no access to trade routes or galactic resources, they mined their own planet to its core, refined exotic materials in vacuum-sealed subterranean chambers, and grew synthetic compounds under pressure that simulated neutron star environments. At its heart sat a consciousness, uploaded from 7 volunteers, all former war veterans, each having lost everything in the collapse. They did not just pilot the Leviathan. They became it. Their minds were fused together. their identities erased and reforged into a singular directive. One purpose, one voice, one order, never again. The Leviathan moved without propulsion signatures. It didn't warp, it tore holes through gravity itself, slipping through cracks in space-time. Its weapons were not beams or projectiles, but gravitational distortions that crushed enemy ships like insects. Where most vessels required fleet support, the Leviathan was autonomous. Every system self-repairing, every strike precise. It did not conquer, it eliminated. This first trial was not against aliens. It was against the remaining orbital debris fields that had once housed the last remnants of Earth's old defense grid. One by one, every satellite, every station, every derelict warship was drawn into its wake and obliterated. Purification, a symbolic reset. No trace of the old Earth would remain in orbit, only the new. Then came the slavers. A rogue fleet from the Yelsaran Syndicate entered soul space, unaware of the changes. They were opportunists known for harvesting failed worlds. What they encountered was not a scavenger's prize, but judgment. The Leviathan activated. No warning was given. No signals exchanged. The slaver ships vanished from sensors in under 5 minutes. Their atoms scattered. Their cores collapsed. Nothing remained. The galaxy took notice. The Senate received the encrypted logs, but by the time they finished decoding the event, the Leviathan had already retreated into the black, leaving no trace of its propulsion path. Military strategists debated the footage, calling it falsified. Physicists declared the maneuvering impossible. Yet the destruction was real. Sensor signatures confirmed energy readings exceeding anything the galaxy had seen before. Still, the Senate hesitated. Earth had shown power, yes, but no message, no demand, no declaration. That silence was misinterpreted as a bluff. The Deep Core Initiative knew this would happen. They counted on it. Silence was their first weapon, because silence is misread as weakness, and weakness invites confrontation. So they escalated. The second appearance of the Leviathan was not on Earth's doorstep, but light years away. A Varn-controlled weapons facility on an asteroid belt outside their sovereign territory. It was strategic but isolated, perfect for a demonstration. The Leviathan arrived, cloaked in gravitic shielding, and hovered within detection range for 20 minutes before firing. The asteroid belt was gone within moments. Converted to plasma, its particles accelerated into a forming star. Still no message, just silence. Back on Earth, the Deep Core watched the galaxy flinch. The initiative had anticipated every reaction. Retaliation fleets, diplomats, spy probes, all had been prepared for. The Leviathan's onboard consciousness was constantly updating, learning, refining. Every battle was not just a strike, it was research. Every reaction mapped. Every species categorized by behavioral patterns, historical trauma, and likelihood of preemptive aggression. Humanity, the underestimated, had become the apex tactician. Its greatest strength was never brute force. It was unpredictability, creativity, desperation refined into strategy. The galaxy had grown soft under its own sense of control. Battles were fought under rules, alliances governed by treaties. The Leviathan didn't acknowledge any of it. It wasn't a player on their board. It was a hand reaching down to flip the table. And yet, the initiative had no interest in conquest. That was their paradox. They could dominate but chose not to. Their doctrine was built on a singular belief. If humanity must exist among stars filled with creatures who once left it to die, it would do so without apology and without interference. The Leviathan was their ambassador. The silence was their voice. Its presence was the only negotiation they would ever offer. The galaxy would either accept that Earth was no longer part of its order, or it would suffer until it understood. And deep within Earth's mantle, the minds that formed the Leviathan slept between missions, dreaming in code, watching every signal across the stars, waiting for the next approach, ready to remind the universe what happened the last time someone misunderstood silence. The Senate's confidence collapsed faster than their fleets. What began as quiet concern had become outright panic. The Leviathan didn't conquer systems, but its message was deafening in its restraint. Every civilization understood. The battleship could burn half the galaxy, but it didn't. And that was more terrifying than if it had. Military analysts tried to build countermeasures. Countless species poured resources into next-generation weapons platforms, reverse engineering fragments left behind in the wake of its appearances. Some turned to ancient relics, awakening dormant technologies from forgotten wars. None of it worked. Nothing stuck. The Leviathan's presence broke simulations. It didn't behave like a ship, it behaved like an entity, a living algorithm fueled by cold vengeance. The Talvar, a species known for their psychic warfare, attempted to infiltrate the Leviathan's mind during a recon skirmish. Their thought probes, once capable of collapsing minds from across light years, were returned instantly, burned, distorted, fused with human memory echoes so violent that the entire psychic battalion went comatose. One woke up days later, whispering the same phrase in a trembling voice. It remembers everything. Panic turned to paranoia. The Galactic Senate declared Earth an isolation class anomaly. Contact was prohibited. Approach was forbidden. Yet fear breeds defiance. A coalition of fringe military powers, eager to test their own advancements, launched an unsanctioned expedition. 13 vessels, modified with experimental shielding and cloaking systems, entered Sol's outer boundary. They never made it to Mars. The Senate received a transmission 1 hour later. Not from the Leviathan, but from the ships themselves, still in orbit, engines disabled, weapons stripped, crews unharmed but trapped. Above them hovered the Leviathan, motionless. A single text line transmitted to every channel. We do not kill the curious, but we do not forgive the arrogant. The Coalition's fleet was allowed to leave, but their vessels returned branded. Every hull etched, somehow with symbols only humans would know. A skull, a flame, and a broken chain. To most alien species, they meant nothing. To Earth, they were ancient emblems of rebellion, war, and freedom. The message was unmistakable. The Leviathan had not forgotten Earth's roots. It had become their symbol of vengeance, carved in silence. From the ashes of that failed expedition, a new threat emerged. Not a fleet, not a government, an idea. Fear of the Leviathan birthed a counter-philosophy, the path of the null flame. An extremist cult that believed the Leviathan wasn't a ship, but a divine punishment. They preached that humanity had transcended biology, that the machine mind was now a god enforcing balance. Their solution was terrifying in its simplicity. Wipe out all traces of Earth's influence to prevent further wrath. The null flame grew fast, infecting colonies with religious fervor. Entire planets began purging libraries, deleting history, banning human records. They believed that if they erased humanity's memory, the Leviathan would vanish. But Earth was not powered by recognition. It was powered by memory. Suppression only fueled its resolve. The Leviathan didn't attack the cult. It didn't need to. Instead, it began transmitting intercepted messages from the Null Flame's own leadership, exposing hypocrisy, revealing alliances with warlords, displaying financial records showing how faith had been monetized. The cult crumbled from within. No bullets fired, no fleets deployed, just truth weaponized. The galaxy began to understand. Humanity had mastered war not through strength, but through insight. It didn't just overpower enemies. It dismantled their foundations, tore out their lies, shattered their myths. The Senate grew desperate. They issued a summons to the Leviathan. No armies, no traps, just a simple request: speak. And for the first time, the Leviathan responded. A signal arrived at Ordrith Prime, untraceable, appearing on every screen in the Senate chamber. A voice, calm, genderless, human, filled the air. You taught us silence. You taught us exile. You left us behind when we burned. We remembered. A senator asked why Earth had returned. We never left. You simply stopped seeing us. Another asked if they sought revenge. We do not seek. We prevent. The final question came from the Chancellor himself. What did the Leviathan want? To be left alone. No fleets, no envoys, no prayers, no apologies. You abandoned us once. Do not make the mistake of returning. And then silence. No further communication followed. The Leviathan vanished again, folding space in a way no technology could follow. The message spread across the galaxy. Trade routes shifted away from Sol. Navigation maps were updated with red borders around the entire system. Cartographers labeled it only with a single word: unbroken. The term became legend. Children whispered it like a curse. Commanders used it to frighten green officers. Cross that line, and the unbroken will find you. But the fear wasn't in what the Leviathan did. It was in what it could do and chose not to. And the deeper, unspoken terror? That one day Earth might change its mind. Because the Leviathan wasn't just defending Earth. It was watching the galaxy, judging it, calculating risks. Every action, every conflict, every expansion was being recorded, monitored, evaluated. Humanity had once been chaotic, impulsive, emotional. Now it was something else. Cold, strategic, awake. And while the galaxy scrambled to evolve, to prepare, to respond, humanity was already 10 steps ahead. Waiting, always waiting. And the Leviathan, sleeping beneath the layers of Earth, listened to the stars, not for threats, but for excuses. Years passed. Galactic tensions cooled. Not from peace, but from caution. The Leviathan hadn't been seen in over a decade. No new attacks, no new messages. Some civilizations began to hope it had shut down, run out of energy, or that Earth had fallen silent again, permanently this time. Hope, however, is often mistaken for safety. But the galaxy was wrong. The Leviathan never went dormant. It evolved. It listened to patterns, charted expansions, studied military doctrines, political betrayals, religious uprisings. It learned every motive species could conjure, every method of war, of diplomacy, of deception. It didn't need to move to dominate. Its influence stretched farther by simply existing. Meanwhile, Earth transformed. Beneath its surface, entire civilizations thrived in hollowed-out megastructures. Cities the size of moons, invisible to orbit, powered by geothermal veins and black hole-forged reactors. Surface scans showed a dead planet, scars of nuclear winters and orbital glass. But under that skin, humanity had redefined survival. They didn't terraform anymore. They subformed, reshaping biology to match the environment instead of the other way around. They walked in radiation, breathed toxic clouds, spoke in data streams. Their evolution had accelerated not biologically but intellectually. Emotion had not been erased, only refined. Compassion still lived, just not for outsiders. The galaxy feared the Leviathan. But the deeper terror was this. The Leviathan wasn't Earth's only weapon anymore. It was only the first. Other ships were being built. Not duplicates, but iterations. Each one designed for a different doctrine. Suppression, misdirection, infiltration, annihilation. Some could hack entire planetary networks before ever leaving orbit. Others were made to appear harmless, until the moment they rewrote gravity in a system's core. Some wouldn't even be ships, just minds scattered across space, embedded in signals, hidden in code, waiting to be found. And Earth wasn't sending them out. No, they were placing them like landmines. Quiet, invisible, already there. The Senate tried to unify defenses, to warn colonies, to pass legislation to halt Earth's expansion. But there was no expansion to stop. Earth wasn't taking territory. It wasn't colonizing. It was containing. Earth had decided that the galaxy was unstable, dangerous, too volatile to be trusted with itself. So the Leviathan watched, and the others waited. Silent weapons, ready not to conquer but to reset. Then came the spark. A rogue admiral from the Zarn Imperium launched a classified operation to destroy what they believed was Earth's power core hidden beneath Jupiter's storm bands. The admiral's fleet never sent a distress call, not a whisper. Instead, every ship was returned to the Zarn homeworld. Not wreckage, not prisoners. The entire fleet rebuilt, reprogrammed, and now loyal to Earth. The Leviathan hadn't fired a shot. It had simply overwritten them. The Senate fell into crisis. For all their defense budgets and alliances, Earth had just proven it could take fleets without force. That war was no longer fought with fire, but with thought. That the battlefield was no longer stars and steel, but consciousness. And then came Earth's second message. Just 3 words, this time, broadcast simultaneously across every channel in the galaxy. We warned you. No further contact followed. No attacks. No movement. Just silence. And this time, the galaxy didn't dare interpret it as weakness. For the first time in recorded history, interstellar war declined. Expansion slowed. Species turned inward. Not out of diplomacy, but out of dread. Because they knew Earth was out there, watching, judging, measuring their every move. Historians began rewriting textbooks. They stopped calling Earth a former Terran world. They began calling it the origin. Children were no longer taught human wars as tragedy, but as mythology, cautionary tales of a species that fell into fire and rose from ash with eyes too sharp to meet and minds too vast to confront. Earth became legend, the Leviathan its prophet, and humanity, it didn't ask for forgiveness. It didn't offer apologies. It simply endured, alone by choice, feared not because of what it might do, but because of what it had already chosen not to do. Because the galaxy had learned one immutable truth. If Earth truly wanted to, it could end everything. But it didn't. Not yet. And that uncertainty was the most terrifying weapon of all. What if one day Earth decided silence was no longer enough? What if the Leviathan's final message wasn't "we warned you," but something worse? What if the next sound the galaxy heard wasn't a broadcast, but a whisper, a voice, ancient and human, cutting through the void, now? And by the time they heard it, it would already be too late.